Hi, everyone. I'm Joseph Ayala, one of your career coaches here at CSUN. Today, we're going to talk about workplace professionalism. This is important to look at because you really have to make a mental transition from going from a student to going to a professional now working for a company. And it really is a mental switch you have to make. And so, what I'm going to teach you today is some strategies so that you can feel comfortable going into your professional workplace with some tools in your toolbox to understand what is the norm, right? What's the expectation when you are in a professional environment so that you're more ready and more secure as you start your career. I always like to say that this is from my perspective of having worked in companies for almost 30 years in different companies at that, and having to navigate on my own as an employee, as a manager, as a director. And I want to impart some of this knowledge onto you. I often say that as well, that if anyone else were to be giving this presentation, they would have different perspective. They might share some of the same tips and tricks I'm sharing with you today, but they might also have different viewpoints, and that's okay. So again, this is from my experience that I'm sharing this, and hopefully you find it useful as well. I want to start off with the survey results, and it is from 2018, but I think it's even more relevant today in 2025. And that is that employees say that new college grads lack soft skills. They say it's very or somewhat difficult to find qualified applicants who value the organization, who the organization values, and that it's difficult to find people with critical thinking skills, communication skills, listening skills, interpersonal skills. I am confident that you are masters at these skills. As a communication studies major, you have learned these in your classes. It's what we've tried to teach you. And it's important that you take these skills you've learned into the workplace with you because companies are asking for them. They want people who have the communication skills that you've learned. It says that the rise of automation, especially in this world of AI that we now live in, you hear about AI all over the place, right? That with the rise of AI, job candidates need uniquely human skills. Those things that you as a human can do that a computer cannot. And so, what we're going to talk about today is how you can present yourself in a communication format, both written and oral, to be successful as you enter the workplace post graduation. We're going to start with workplace professionalism as it relates to email. The first thing I want to talk about is that you want to use proper grammar and spelling. In the world that we live in today, especially in what you've grown up with, you've grown up in the world of Twitter, of text messaging, of all of those different apps where you just have to respond back and forth to someone without worrying about proper grammar or spelling. And when you enter the workplace, you need to make that mental shift to say, I am no longer in that world, but I'm instead in a professional world where proper grammar and spelling is valued and expected. Remember that as you send out your emails to your colleagues, to your customers, that is their impression of you. And you want it to be a good impression. So use proper grammar and spelling and understand mentally that you're moving away from the world where you are just sending quick messages to your friends via an app. Avoid adding emotional feelings like smiley faces and acronyms in your official email message. Again, many of you can probably hold a whole conversation through text messaging only using emojis. That is not what's expected in an email in a professional workplace. So refrain from doing that. Keep it professional. Do not start messages with "hey" or other casual phrases like "what's up?" Right? That is something that we just don't do. Instead, we start off messages with "dear" or "hi" or "good afternoon" or "good morning." Remembering with that mental switch that workplace email is not Facebook, Twitter, or text messaging. It's a professional form of communication and should be taken seriously. I'll give you 3 examples. If I'm sending a message on a Monday, I typically might say, "Dear John, I hope you had a good weekend." And then I go on with the rest of my message. If it's Wednesday, I typically might say, "Dear Sam, I hope your week is going well so far." And then I continue with my message. If I'm sending a message on a Friday, I might say, "Dear Susan, I hope you had a good week." And then I continue on with my message. We always start by a proper address in the beginning of the email. You don't want to get into the habit of just instantly responding to the email. If someone sends you an email and you're responding back to them, or let's say you send an email out and they respond back to you and now you need to respond back, a good way to start that is, Dear John, thank you for your timely response." And then you can continue on. It's easy to be respectful, even in email. Remember that emails last forever. What this means is a couple things. First, it's hard to deny you said something if it's written down in email because someone has it, right? If you send an email to someone and then it comes around and your manager says, "Peter said that you said you weren't going to work on this project because you thought it wasn't a good idea." And you say, I would never say that. That's not what I said." Chances are that Peter forwarded your email to your manager. They know exactly what you said. The second thing is, remember that your email at work is owned by the company, not by you. It's not your Hotmail account, your Gmail account, or anything like that. And so a workplace can access your email and it's not an invasion of privacy because it's owned by the company. The third thing that's mentioned here is write an appropriate email always when you're emotionally ready. If someone responds back to you and it's not what you expected them to say, maybe they're being disrespectful. Maybe they responded in a way that was in disagreement with a plan you had made as part of the project you're working on. Instead of just clicking respond and typing away and clicking send, you want to maybe walk away. Think about it. Call a friend and then come back to that email. Because chances are, when you write that email after having taken a break, it's going to be in a way that you want to send it, as opposed to a reactive email that you might regret later. So remember, emails last forever, and you want to be very cautious and deliberate when sending them. And use the recipient's proper name until they tell you to address them differently. So for example, I have a couple of examples: David versus Dave, Susan versus Sue. What you want to do is, if someone's name is David, even if other people call them Dave, you want to address them as David until they tell you that they prefer to be called Dave. How do you know this? Let's say it's the first time you send them an email, and you can see that in their email address that says David. So you send an email. "Hi, David. I just wanted to see what the status of the project is. Can you please let me know? Thank you." He responds back and says, "Hey, Joseph." Not hey. "Hi, Joseph. I should have a status for the project to you by next Friday. Thank you. Have a good day. Sincerely, Dave." Now I see that he signed it Dave. He's telling me it's okay to call him Dave. So the next time I respond back, I can say, "Good morning, Dave," because that's how he signed his name. If he signs his name David to you, he's telling you that that is his preferred name. So make sure that as part of your workplace professionalism through email, that you're addressing people by the name they prefer to be called. Beyond email, there's also interpersonal workplace professionalism. The first is to be an active listener, an individual who listens and listens and is open to the ideas and suggestions of others. You want to make sure that you're someone who is listening to understand as opposed to listening to respond. This is going to be very important as you first enter that workplace because you're not going to know a lot, right? You might be very, very smart, but you're not going to know why they do certain things in the company, why they made certain decisions, why they have certain policies in place. And the way that you're going to learn that is by being an active listener so that you can start to understand why they do things certain ways. And that's really going to help you because it's going to help you make decisions within the context of how you understand the company operates. So you might be the smartest student graduating from CSUN, but when you go into that professional workplace, it's going to be a whole new environment. Don't be discouraged. Instead, be an active listener, be a sponge, take it all in, and you'll be able to understand and quickly learn about the new company you're part of. Ask questions before making a statement. This might be something that is a little difficult to understand, so I'd rather give you an example for it. Let's say that you are planning you're in a meeting and you're new to the company, and let's say you're planning an event and they're asking you to plan the company event, the annual company event that's going to happen. So you guys are brainstorming ideas and someone says, we should do it in Texas this year. Texas has a lot of great convention centers and things. And you start planning it and you say, why should we do it? I don't know if we should do it in Texas. We should just do it in a great international place like Mexico. That would be so much better. And then someone looks at you and says, Joseph, we can't do it in Mexico because the policy is when we're spending the company money on a specific project, that the budget says it needs to be spent in the United States. See, if you would have asked a question as opposed to a statement, you might have gotten a different reaction. Let me try it out. You're in that same scenario. Instead of making a statement, you ask. I know that we're thinking of Texas, but is there a reason we can't do it in Mexico? Joseph, there is. The reason is because the money that's allocated for this project has to be spent in the United States. Oh, okay. Okay, well then, yeah, Texas sounds like a great idea, right? It changes the entire tone from one of kind of like a demand to one of someone who's coming from an ask to understand. It makes a totally different. It makes a totally different perspective for you. So ask questions before making the statement. Be tolerant of differences and try to understand other perspectives. Remember, you are going to be entering a workforce where there are people so different than you. Different backgrounds, different educational backgrounds, different economic status, different religion, different political views, different sexual orientation. All of those are going to come together in your workplace. And more so than being tolerant, being accepted or accepting those differences is really kind of your goal. And if you try and understand all of those other perspectives as you are making decisions and coming to conclusions and trying to reach your company goals, the solutions you're going to come up with are going to be so much better if you allow everyone's voice to be heard. if you allow all those different perspectives to come together, it's going to be so much stronger than just hearing one's voice. So keep that in mind as you're working through, even if you have different opinions of others and different perspectives, be open to the idea. And when you do that, you will find that combining ideas together usually comes to a better result than going on your own. Keep personal information personal, both yours and others. You never know, that should say, you never know who knows who, right? It's up to you to decide how much information you want to disclose. People only know about you what you tell them. So if there's something personal that you don't want others to know, you don't have to tell them. There's no rule about that. And at the same time, if you overhear some personal information, maybe overheard a conversation in the parking lot or overheard someone talking on the phone and it was personal information, it's not your job or your place to then share that personal information with others. It will damage the trust that that person has with you, which could damage the work that you guys are supposed to work on together. So keeping personal information personal is going to benefit you both interpersonally, but also professionally. And just like they taught us in kindergarten, say please and thank you. It's those small things that help establish relationships in the company and allow people to look at you as someone who's very respectful. A lot of times we forget about this, but you can do it and it's easy to do. As you're starting a meeting at work, you can say, thanks everyone for being here, or thank you all for being on time. As the meeting ends, you can say, thank you for all sharing all of your ideas today. I know that we're going to have a great project together. Say please, right? If when you need to assign work out to someone, a specific task, you can say, John, would you please take on this responsibility? Sure, Joseph, I can do it. Thank you so much for stepping up. Right? It's small things like that that make a big difference. And avoid gossip. I say it's very difficult to do because when you're working, even though it's a professional environment, you're going to build personal relationships. And once those personal relationships start to develop, somehow gossip seems to develop too. You need to make a personal, conscious decision that when that gossip comes up, even though you might hear it, you're not going to be the one to spread it. And again, that's something active that you can do yourself and make the conscious decision to do. So in our interpersonal, professional workplace, we're going to be active listeners. We're going to ask questions before making statements so that we learn about why things are done. We're going to accept differences of others because when we do that and hear their perspectives, we come to a better solution than if we were to do it ourselves. We're going to keep personal information personal. We're going to remember to say please and thank you so that people know that we're showing respect. And we're going to avoid gossip, which is very difficult to do, but something we actively can tell ourselves to not do. There's some personal workplace professionalism tips and tricks I'd like to walk through with you. Always be on time. One of my managers used to say, if you are on time, you are late. You want to be respectful of other people's time. You will start to understand when you get into the workplace that people have meetings a lot of times back to back. Their time is valuable. Your time is valuable. And one of the ways that you can show that you respect that is to be on time. Work the hours expected of you. Most of you, when you graduate, you're not going to work in a place where you have to sign in at 8 o'clock and sign out at 5 o'clock. Instead, you're going to be a salaried employee. They're going to hire you and say, we're going to pay you $50,000 a year. It's not about the amount of hours you work per se. It's just making sure you get your work done. The expectation is if you get your work done, we don't care if you work 6 hours one day and 10 hours the next. Just get your work done. right? It's going to be kind of a different environment than for many of you who today are used to going in and clocking out. So when we say work the hours expected of you, number one, if they have set hours for you, make sure you're there when they say that you need to be there and leave when you're not, when they say you can leave. If you're at a salaried position where it's kind of flexible, make sure you're working the hours necessary to get your work done. Okay, keeping your commitments is very, very important. Respond to emails and phone calls in a timely manner. What's the definition of a timely manner? It's going to depend what the norm is in the organization that you work for. But in general, things that are urgent, that are high priority, are things you really should move to the top of your list and respond back in a very immediately, really, because it means someone else is not able to do their job or their next step until they get a response from you. And you want to be respectful that with by delaying a response, you are preventing someone else from getting their job done. So you want to respond to emails and phone calls in a timely manner, because when you're in a professional workplace, you are not on an island by yourself. Everyone is integrated together and they are expecting information from each other in order to move a project forward or a program forward or whatever. And so it's important that you keep the communication going by responding to those emails and phone calls. The worst thing you can do is simply not respond at all. Okay, so please remember to respond to emails and phone calls. Control your temper. Do not be reactive. We talked a little bit about this in the email professionalism. When we talk about personal professionalism, it means when you are speaking to someone face to face, either in a meeting, like in a conference room, or through Zoom or anything like that. It's the same thing. You might hear something you don't like. They might completely be disagreeing with something you're saying. They might even be disrespectful to you. Again, two wrongs do not make a right. You want to take a breath. You want to pause for a moment. It's okay to do that. You can even tell them something like, I'm just going to pause a moment because I need to really think about my response. Right? That's okay to say. They'll appreciate that. They'll appreciate it. And you will too when you come back and say to them, so I heard what you said. I listened to everything you said. And I understand what you said. And these are the reasons why I disagree. Or this is why I have a different perspective than you. And very professionally, you can lay it out. But what you don't want to be is just someone who snaps back. It's not accepted in a workplace. It's not going to go well. Even if you are in the right? Even if you are right, if you come across in the wrong way, it doesn't matter that you were right, because all people are going to remember is the temper and how you delivered the message in a negative way. You don't want to be known as that person. Have a clear-cut divide between your personal life and professional life, and keep personal views such as politics away from work. We live in a highly politicized environment where many people disagree on many different fronts. That doesn't mean we can't work with them and be successful in working with them in a professional manner. You have to mentally tell yourself that it's not about religion, that it's not about politics. It's about what you're doing for the company you're working for and the goals that you have. I am very aware of people that work directly on my team who have very different views than I do. And they know that they have very different views from me. But yet professionally, we get a lot done together. We like working together. We have shared goals and we have shared successes, and we do great. Even though we know that other views outside of work are very contradictory to each other. We don't let that affect our professional life. And it's something that you have to learn to do for yourself, because it's going to be very rare that you're going to be part of a company where everyone in the company thinks and believes the same way you do. It's just not going to happen. But it doesn't mean we can't all respect each other. Workplace professionalism also comes with appearance. Your clothing creates an image of you. Follow the dress code specified by the organization. Now, in most cases, when you enter the workforce in a professional environment, there's not going to be a written dress code. So how do you know what the dress code is? On the first day of work, you probably want to overdress a little bit because you never want to underdress. And then look around. See what people are wearing. Maybe they're wearing nice pants and a button-up shirt. That kind of seems to be the norm. Now you know, well, that's what I'm going to wear going forward. And then maybe on Friday, you look around and you see a lot of people are wearing jeans and polo shirts. That tells you, you know what, Friday's probably casual day around here. I'm going to start wearing jeans and a polo shirt on Friday, right? That's the norm. You'll see I'm wearing a polo shirt. You probably can't see it, but it says CSUN on the shirt. I thought that was appropriate to wear for this type of presentation I'm giving now, right? So make sure you're just following that dress code, whether written or implied or observed by that organization you work for. Be observant to understand the dress code, and when in doubt, ask. It's okay to ask. As the new person, they know you don't know everything about their company. When I first started working at the company I'm with now, which is now 2.5 years, as soon as I started, we were going to go to a conference with people from the same company that I work for. It was going to be the first time I was going to meet them. And they sent out an agenda and said, this is what we're going to do for the 3 days. We would have to travel to get there. So I sent my manager a message. I said, hi, Steve, I'm getting ready to go to the conference. I'll see you there next week. I just wanted to ask, what is the typical dress code for one of these conferences? So I know what to pack. He responded back and he said, it's usually, more like business casual. So most of the guys will wear nice jeans, nice shoes, and maybe a button-up shirt. I said, great. Thanks for letting me know. Now I know what to pack. So it's okay to ask. People know that you're the new guy, you're the new woman. They'll help you out. Refrain from using heavily scented perfume or lotions that could bother coworkers. This is, of course, for those who are going to work in an office. You don't want to be offensive to someone, or offend someone. There's a lot of allergies. People, have different things that it just doesn't work well for them. You don't want someone to get sick because of something you're wearing. So just be aware of that and be well-groomed. It shows you take your role seriously. So as you look at what that dress code is, you don't need to be that person who stands out, right? You do kind of want to conform to the norm. It's what's expected. And you do want to show that you are taking your role successfully as a professional by making sure that you look good. My final thought is to simply follow the norms established by the organization. Yes, I talked about some etiquette when it comes to emails and interpersonal and the way you dress. But the bottom line is frame all of those things in the norms established by the organization. What I mean by that is you might work for an organization that when you start with this company and you start receiving emails. And all of the emails start with, hey, or what's up? Or, hey, I hope you had a good week, happy face emoji. Well, if you start seeing those things, I don't want you to say to yourself, I can't communicate that way because I saw that. I remember back when Joseph did that presentation, he told me not to do it. Because what you're learning by all of those emails coming by different employees who've been there a lot longer than you is they're telling you that the norm for their organization is that they're very casual in their communication. So that tells you that's acceptable, right? That tells you that's acceptable. What I presented here in this presentation is what I have found to be typically the norm. But be aware that some organizations are going to have different norms, and it's okay, and you should conform to those. If you go and start working for a company and you walk in and let's say everyone's working in the office and they're all wearing jeans and t-shirts and tennis shoes, that's the norm. I want you to then go and buy jeans and shirts, t-shirts, and tennis shoes so that you are fitting into that organization as one of their employees, following the norms that they have. So I've tried to give you a lot of good tips and tricks today based upon what I typically see in organizations and how I think you should start your communication and your appearance and your interpersonal skills as you enter an organization. Until you know the norms of that organization, use the tips I talked about today, but change them. Adapt yourself to the norms of the organization you're part of. Remember, most of you are not going to work for the same company for 40 years. So what's the established norm at one company may be different when you go to the next one. So every time that you go from one company to another, mentally tell yourself that you have to change the norms, because every organization is going to have a different way that they operate. And your job is to look around and observe and ask so that you know that you are following the norms of that organization, which allows you to feel that you're part of the team, which allows other people to see you as part of the team, which allows you to all work together on the same goal for that project or for that company that you're working for. So keep that in mind as you leave CSUN and are entering the world of your profession that you choose. I hope that you've learned some tips and tricks throughout the presentation today. I wish you all the success in the world. Thank you for paying attention today, and enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.